Celine Roland will start in row number 1 alongside Michael Carter, Robert Noaker, and Danny Bender in row number 2. In row number 3, it's Robert Stout and Drake Kemper, Gresham Wagner, and Tyler Gonzalez. A couple of rookies in row number 4. In row number 5, Tyler Maxson and Brian Ortiz. In row number 6, Luke Oxner and Zach Lee. Peter Enzer and Ryan Hall in row number 7. In row number 8, John Dean and Alex Bachera. In row number 9, Hernan Palermo and Sarah Montgomery. Nick?
Yep, and certainly some of those drivers to watch in that ND1 class. John Dean, Hernan Palermo, Sarah Montgomery, Carter Wheaton right there in the middle of the field. Everybody up front on the ND2 cars. Mark, as these drivers making their way off of the turn 14 part of the racetrack, about to climb the hill and go racing once again in the Battery Tender Global Mx-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires.
That is a picturesque sight, most assuredly, to see those cars running 2x2, and the green flag is in the hands of the starter, and the usual drag race occurs as they crest the hill. Celine Roland with the pole position. Lost a couple of spots on the start yesterday, but it looks like he's going to hold P1 for now. Although, as I say that, Michael Carter gets a nice run into turn number 1. He'll take the high side. That's a bit longer way around. We'll see if he's able to hold on to the spot. A good run by Michael Carter. Looks like he's going to try to slip in front of Celine Roland now, Nick Yeoman, as they work their way off at turn number 2.
How about the commitment from Michael Carter to go around the outside on the opening lap? That certainly takes a lot of guts, and it paid off as he grabs the point here on the opening lap. Celine Roland tucks right in behind as they make that long pull down to turn number 5. We see Robert Noakers, yesterday's winner, kind of got hung out to dry as a little dust is kicked up. And we got one car spinning right in the middle of the pack. It's the 48 machine of Zach Lee. Everybody moves to driver's left to try to avoid him. Very nearly had a collision at the back of the field, but it does appear to just be a one-car incident as Zach Lee has crashed. Meanwhile, though, Mark, they're side by side for the lead as Roland's going to take it in turn 6.
Yep, Celine Roland goes back to P1. Michael Carter got forced out a little bit wide, and the car wasn't real comfortable at the apex of that turn. He lost a little bit of grip, but he's trying to stay right there in that second position. As Nick, we have a full course caution now.
Yeah, and it's going to be again for that incident involving Zach Lee, the driver of the number 48 machine for McCumbee McAleer Racing from Houston, Texas, driver of the ND2 MX-5. That bright silver chrome MX-5 is parked just to the rundown of turn number 5. Not sure if he got help. I would assume, Mark, getting turned on a straightaway, that there was some contact, but thankfully just a one-car incident involving Zach Lee.
Tony Laporta's down on pit road, and Tony, a recap yesterday. Let's talk a little bit about John Dean and the season he is putting together. An awfully impressive run so far for John Dean in that ND1 class.
Yeah, you are not joking there, Mark. John Dean swept this weekend here at Road America last season, but of course now, as you talked about, there's ND1 and there's ND2. It's a split class series, as Mo Murray talked about a lot yesterday, and you said it, Mark. John Dean 5 for 5 so far here in 2019 when it comes to the ND1 category. He swept the weekend at Circuit of the Americas, he swept the weekend at Alabama, and then he won yesterday in the 5th round of the season. And it's guys that he's racing against that he knows really, really well. One of his co-drivers and teammates over at Six Sideways Racing, former series champion Nathaniel Sparks in the 8 car. He's also competing against Hernan Palermo in the 20, as well as another one of his team's drivers over at Six Sideways Racing. That's, of course, Sarah Montgomery in the number 14 Roth Cheese sponsored entry. So, yeah, John Dean has been shooting the lights out so far in ND1, but Nathaniel Sparks and Hernan Palermo and Sarah Montgomery and the rest of that ND1 field, they're not taking it easy. They're not laying down. They're going to be gunning for him as long as the season goes on.
I don't know that it's a matter of Zach Lee getting some help and getting spun around as so much, Nick. It looked like the left side's got off the racetrack to the high side, and he just lost it.
Yep, spot on. The drivers were really weaving back and forth down that long stretch down to turn number 5. We saw a couple cars ahead of him even put the left side tires into the grass, but Zach Lee, his car broke traction and again spins to the inside or outside of that straightaway, making contact, and that is what has put us under a full course yellow. Celine Roland is your leader, as we've got Michael Carter, who took the lead on the opening corner. He is in the 2nd position. Drake Kemper is 3rd, Danny Bender 4th, Robert Stout 5th here at Elkhart Lake.
Well, so much activity early on. We have yet to have a chance to welcome in our good friend Mo Murray from Mazda Motorsports. Mo, welcome back to the booth, and we're looking forward to the second half of this doubleheader.
Thank you, Mark. And yeah, yesterday's race was fantastic. One thing to point out, Tony told us early in the pre-race as the cars were rolling out on the warm-up lap about a drivers' meeting where the series leadership or the race stewards came and talked to the drivers. And one thing occurred to me, for young drivers looking for a place to go racing, looking for a place to learn their craft, what struck me most, not about that meeting as being called to the principal's office and being chastised, but what I saw it as an opportunity for these young drivers, where I'm not sure there are many series in the world where you can be brought in as a group collectively. There was no pointing the finger, and hear from somebody with the experience of Max Pappas and the race direction experience, over 100 races managed as race director from Kyle Novak. That kind of learning and that kind of teaching is a fantastic opportunity for these young drivers, in addition to the rest of the things. If you look at the leaderboard right now, Celine Roland and Michael Carter, the last 2 winners of the Club Racer Shootout, which earned them a season basically in this championship, and Dre Kemper in 3rd place in a car that he won in the Lemons of Love raffle. So there really isn't a place in the country where there's more opportunity not only to come and race, but also to do so under the guidance of great leadership and experience.
Let's go to pit road, Tony Laporta.
Zach Lee, bad luck here in 2019 continues for the driver of the number 48 from McCumbee McAleer Racing. Zach, your day done way too soon. Can you tell me what happened out there on the opening lap?
Tony, I hate meeting you like this.
I do too.
I think that was my fault. I think I was trying to pass one of the teenagers, and I got off into the grass and spun it. I don't think I was pushed off. I think it was my fault. But I want to see the video, but I think it was just a mistake on my part.
Was it just, we talked about the drivers' meeting that was called already today. Unfortunately, you're the first driver we get to talk to this about, but the tone that Kyle Novak and Max Pappas set in there about calming down on the starts of these races, calming down over the whole course of the race. Early on, I know it was just a few corners, but what do you think? Has the message been delivered so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The problem is, in this momentum series, if you have momentum, it's very difficult to give it back. And I had a good run going down into 5, and I think I just got 2 in the grass. You know, driver error, my fault.
All right, well, Zach Lee owning up to the incident out here that takes the 48 out of this race early. Zach, we hate talking to you like this as well. Glad you're okay, most importantly, and we'll see you in a few weeks at Mid-Ohio.
Mid-Ohio it is. See you.
All right, that's Zach Lee, driver the number 48, out early here in round number 6.
Yeah, got to respect it when they own it, Nick.
Yeah, no doubt about it. When he sees the video, I think it's probably going to confirm what he suspected. There's no doubt about it. But I like what he brought up, you know, in terms of the racing that we saw yesterday about this series being all about momentum. And that's the beauty, and it's a double-edged sword, because we've seen these drivers get incredible runs and get side by side. Sometimes it's going to spill over, but at the same time, you want these drivers to really wheel these cars around and put on a good show. So tough end of the day for Zach Lee, as he's going to end up out of this race in the 30th position. But as Tony talked about, we're looking forward to seeing him racing at Mid-Ohio with the rest of these drivers here soon.
Mo, for those that weren't able to join us yesterday, talk about the title sponsorship of this doubleheader weekend for the Battery Tender Global MX-5 and how special of a weekend it is for everyone associated with that series.
Well, yeah, so there are 3 key partners besides Mazda involved in this series. Battery Tender, as you've mentioned, they're the title sponsor of the series. It's presented by BF Goodrich Tire. And the third one is Long Road Racing, as we have 1 to go before we go green again. The third one is Long Road Racing, a company from Statesville, North Carolina, who developed and built all of these cars. The parity that's in the series can be traced all the way back to the quality control that Long Road Racing has, because these cars are all absolutely identical. Long Road Racing was founded by Glenn Long and his wife Alana, who unfortunately we lost to cancer earlier this year. Alana was a racing spirit in her heart, no question about that. She loved racing and she loved the family that is involved in this series. And we lost Alana in tragic circumstances, and you know, this weekend is the Alana Long 100. Both of these races have been named in her honor, and we talked yesterday about the greatest tribute that we as a racing community could give her would be to put on these great races. She loved seeing young drivers come into the series. She loved seeing the family and the esprit de corps that exists in the paddock. So a tip of the hat from all of us in the paddock to Glenn Long and her 2 boys, Chris and Tom, and of course the rest of the community mourning the terrible loss of our dear friend Alana.
www.classy.org/campaign / Alana Long 100. Global Mazda MX-5 Cup Tribute. You go there, Nick, as we go back to Green Flag Racing. That's where you can donate.
This is actually a replay of the start of the race that we saw. Celine Roland to the inside, and it was just a great run by Michael Carter to swing around the outside. And boy, he used up just about all the runoff to the outside of the racetrack to grab that lead, and it's always just thrilling to watch those cars go side by side. Obviously, going to be a single file restart coming up here, Mark, but we know with the draft, Michael Carter may be in position to get right alongside Roland when we go back.
As you talked about it, the level of commitment he had to make the high side work, because that's not often something that ends well.
No doubt about it, especially when you go side by side. So to get that run, you kind of have to take it and stick with it. And there's a lot of corners here at Mid-Ohio where it demands that type of commitment. Around the carousel, certainly the last couple corners, 12, 13, that Thunder Valley section up until the final corner of turn 14. You've got to have some guts to make some passes to the outside. So Michael Carter has a really good race car. He's the scholarship winner in the Soul Red Mazda machine. So we'll see if he can challenge Celine Roland when we go back to racing here in just a couple minutes.
The reason we gave you that web address earlier for those donations, Lemons of Love is challenging drivers, teams, and supporters to make donations at that link to help reach its goal of $10,000. Several prizes up for grabs for the top overall fundraisers. In fact, Lemons of Love hosted a long road family lunch today in the Mazda paddock, and supporters were there to help raise funds for that cause. So it's a great cause for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Mo, you talked about the Lemons of Love cars and how we've given some opportunities to some drivers. It's a tremendous program that they've got.
2 cars in the race. Actually, Lemons of Love runs a raffle every year, and they raffle off one of these cars for a $100 ticket. You get a chance to buy one of these cars. And 2 of the cars in this race, the 99 of Drake Kemper and the 18 of Danny Bender, were both cars that were won in that raffle.
And they're fast, Mark. They're running 3rd and 4th. So we'll see if Kemper and Bender, they were up front all day yesterday, as Celine Roland set to bring him back to green out of turn 14.
Well, the restart for sure. We promised this time by, and they are indeed single file as they stake their way off of turn number 14 and head down that straightaway. First, the hill climb to the start-finish line, and then they may start to fan out a little bit as they set up for turn number 1 as they get the benefit of that draft. And they do at that start-finish line, in fact, start to fan out. Kemper is the one that goes first, and it looks like he's going to get a shove down into turn number 1. Question is, can Celine Roland hold on to it? Kemper going to see if he can make the high side work. So far, he's not been able to with the same amount of success that Carter has. Although, as I say that, they set up for turn number 2. He looks like he noses in front just a little bit. Now Roland climbs back into the throttle. They stay door handle to door handle now as they head toward turn 3.
Yeah, turn 3 is another one of those corners where if you can stick it to the outside, you can get a little momentum. And Kemper nosed ahead with the lead, but Celine Roland came right back side by side. Lots of bump drafting down this long straightaway towards turn number 5. Kemper's got the advantage on the inside, Mark, but will he come out with the lead through the left-hander?
Yeah, it looks like Drew Kemper's going to grab the spot. We'll see if the Celine Roland can hold on to second, because it's a full assault for third, but it looks like he is going to grab that spot. In fact, Michael Carter now, Nick, he's engaged in a side-by-side battle as they head toward the carousel. He wants to hold on to that third spot. Looks like he's going to do just that.
And he will. A little bit further back, we see a couple of the young guns as the race winner from yesterday, Robert Noaker, he runs in the 7th position, trying to hold off Tyler Maxson as they're going side by side. We see Luke Oxter in that yellow and black car swing to the outside, and now back to the inside through the carousel. Looks like he's going to pick up a spot around Robert Noaker as well.
How about of the many impressive rookies that are in this field, Tyler Gonzalez in that 57, Mo, he currently finds himself in the top 10.
So Tyler Gonzalez yesterday, you will recall, between late in the race between turns 1 and 2, he had it off and made a fairly significant impact with the tire wall on the outside of turn 2 there. That car was comprehensively damaged. Fortunately, he didn't nose into the wall, and so the frame was straight, but down the side of the car was badly damaged. That crew worked late and diligently all night and most of this morning, and they've got this car up and running fast by the looks of things.
Tony Laporte, I know you're pretty tight with these guys in the paddock. So Robert Noaker, yesterday's winner, you know, recently he did a fan meet and greet for Tag Heuer at an Indianapolis jewelry store. Did he hook you up with a nice Tag Jack Boyer Rogers?
You know, he left out that sponsorship opportunity, Mark, so I'm glad you've brought it to my attention because I was not aware. I always could use a new watch. But yeah, you are right, Mark. I'm really fortunate to get to be down here in the pits and form some really cool relationships with these drivers. We just did an autograph session about 3 or 4 hours ago before this race, right after that Alana Long and the Lemons of Love luncheon, and I asked Robert Nowaker over the PA system in front of all the folks that were there getting autographs. I said, there's our winner from yesterday, Robert Nowaker. Robert, can you win again? And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. And I said, all right, now the real question, will you win again? And he honestly, confidently, guys, said, yeah, I think I will win again. So he called his shot in the autograph session, and he's definitely feeling pretty good here in round number 6.
Robert Stout takes the long way around the course off of turn number 3. Nick Yeoman, he got all 4 in the grass, was able to hold on to it as we see Luke Oxner making a move. No surprise, Luke Oxner was in the top 10. He's currently running in the 7th position, but Robert Nowaker ran a very smart race yesterday, Nick. Hung around, and then the last 2 laps he hit the switch.
Yeah, right when he needed to, kind of like Celine Roland just did to retake the lead. Robert Nowaker picked his spots and methodically kind of worked his way through the field. We see Robert Stout continuing to try to hang on after Oxner got around him, Ortiz got around him. Now Stout's got a little bit of drafting help as Nowaker all over the back of that car. I like the confidence, Mark, but at the same time, Robert Nowaker's got to remember there's a lot of very talented drivers in this field and a lot of drivers that have won races in Battery Tender Global Mx-5 Cup that know how to get it done. And as we see Nowaker already trimming a little grass there underneath that Speedville bridge.
Yeah, and Tyler Maxson also, that car's easy to spot with that crazy design on that car. He got it off course, got all 4 wheels off just like Nowaker did. More on that young man now from Mo.
So Robert Nowaker, yesterday's winner. One thing I noticed about him yesterday, for those fans who like to go back and look at all these races, they're all available on Mazda's YouTube channel. But if you go back to Mid-Ohio last year, when Robert Nowaker won that first race and put himself in the Guinness Book of Records as the youngest ever winner of an IndyCar sanctioned motor race, and watch the winner circle interview, he was a very shy and awkward teenager, and I mean awkward in a nice way. He didn't know what to do. As a 14-year-old, it was awkward for him. Look at how he performed yesterday in the winner circle. He has matured tremendously in the year that he's been involved in almost a year now in the series that he's been involved. And yesterday's winner circle interview compared to that from just about a year ago, totally different young man. He's maturing, he's growing up, and he's certainly learning how to be a race car driver in this series.
Kemper, Roland, check that. Roland, Kemper, Carter, Bender, and Ortiz, the top 5. And again, they start to fan out, Nick, as they enter turn number 1.
Yeah, Michael Carter's going to take a look to the outside. Boy, carrying so much speed into turn 1. We saw the front 2 or 3 cars wobble just a bit into turn 1. A lot of dust and maybe a little contact kicked up underneath that Briggs and Stratton bridge, but it is Celine Roland that holds on to that lead. Brian Ortiz gives a good shot to Tyler Gonzalez, was a little slow exiting turn 3. Ortiz now has a drafting partner as Luke Oxner is going to try to push him past.
Fascinating to me that Michael Carter's able to make his car work to the high side in turn number 1. He picked up a position there. He grabbed P2 as a result.
Yep, and now he's going to try to set up Celine Roland down here in turn number 5. It's a long crawl downhill to the left-hander, but it looks like Roland's going to hold him off and starting to see these drivers maybe establish a little bit of pace, especially through this tricky part of the race.
Yeah, they climb the hill now as they start to prepare for that carousel, and Carter is right there on the rear bumper of your leader, Celine Roland. And Tony Laporta, let's talk about Celine Roland. He made a big splash a year ago when he arrived, and I think conventional wisdom told folks he was the prohibitive favorite to win the championship coming back for his 2nd season. But while he's had a good season for sure, I think he's finding out that the competition is just as stiff this year as it was last year.
No, absolutely perfect way to put that, Mark. A sophomore slump is not what has happened to the driver from Orlando, Florida, Celine Roland. You've pretty much summed it up perfectly. He has been out there. He has scored race wins already in only this 5-race-old 2019 campaign. But you are absolutely right. He has found out that the competition has not slowed down one bit. And a point of interest as we watch these guys battle up at the very front end of the field right now, Michael Carter, the guy that is the new Celine Roland. I mean that as he is the scholarship driver from Mazda this year. Celine Roland, had that honor last season. And if we remember, we talked about this yesterday, back in weekend number 2 of the championship at Birmingham in Barber Motorsports in Alabama, Carter and Celine Roland got together way down there in Charlotte's Web late in the race. They got together once again yesterday, and not that this was anything to do with those incidences, but after that emergency drivers meeting was called today, race director Kyle Novak called the front row together. The front row, of course, being Celine Roland and Michael Carter. He had a good, short talk with both the drivers. Didn't get a chance to hear what it was about necessarily, more than likely starting procedures. The cool thing was, guys, Celine and Michael both walked out of the drivers' meeting room laughing, talking, and joking with one another. So they're out there, they're getting close, they're dicing it up, but they have remained friendly through all of it so far at least.
Can Carter make the high side work into turn number 1, Nick?
They're staying friendly right now in turn 1, but that doesn't mean they're not side by side. Out of turn 1, Carter's on the outside. He may get some help as Drake Kemper jumps to the outside to maybe give him a little drafting help. Roland's got the preferred inside line. I'm still not sure they've sorted this all out, Mark. Out of turn 3, a nice challenge for the lead as Celine Roland and Michael Carter go side by side underneath the Sargento Bridge.
Pretty good drag race, and Danny Bender is hanging around as that front 4 has paired up as they make their way down toward turn number 5. This is where things get interesting as they clear that Sargento Bridge. We see the youngster to the bottom side of Celine Roland, and boy, I'll tell you what, that's a pretty strong move down that hill into turn number 5.
It's almost a game of chicken of who's going to break last into that corner, and certainly these drivers can really dive it deep into turn 5. That time it benefits Michael Carter as he takes over the lead. The 87 machine of Celine Roland settles into second, and then there's Drake Kemper, who's got a really fast car in the 3rd spot.
Yeah, we had a car in the runoff area. That's Brian Lockwood in the 43, and well, we heard reference made earlier to the scholarship winner this year or the scholarship winner the year before. For those joining us on the PA here that might not be familiar with that quote-unquote scholarship program, explain it to them, please.
So the way Mazda supports these young drivers in many different series, but Mazda is committed to driver development and developing the careers of these young drivers. So the way it impacts this series is we gather the best of the young grassroots racers each year from around the country. We put them together in a shootout. They spend a couple of days competing against each other in Mx-5 Cup cars. And at the end of that day, an independent panel of judges, very talented drivers and race officials, make a determination and pick one of those drivers. That driver wins a $100,000 scholarship, much the same way that a lot of kids at this time of year are leaving high school, graduating high school, and moving on into athletic or academic scholarships in college. That $100,000 is not a check or cash paid to the driver. It's buying power that they can then go shop among the teams and put a program together. It's enough to get a full year, basically. They get free tires, they get free entries and stuff like that. Michael Carter won that most recently last November. Celine Roland won it the year before. Once they're in the series, if you win the series championship in ND2, these cars at the front, you win $200,000 scholarship to move on. There's a young man racing in the IMSA LMP3 class named Nico Rieger, last year's champion. That's what he's using his scholarship for. There's also a $100,000 scholarship for the ND1 winner and a $75,000 scholarship for Rookie of the Year. So that's the level of commitment, financial commitment, and learning or experience that Mazda is putting into these young drivers' careers.
Those are 18-year-old grown men and women getting scholarships, though, not 14-year-old kids like you have in your series.
That's true. That's true.
That is just fascinating to me. It really is, and this series is chock full of 14-year-olds. Let's head to pit road, check in with Tony Laporta.
Yeah, thanks, guys. You know, it's always so much fun when you come to the National Park of Speed, Road America. I've learned lots of things this weekend, like how to smuggle cheese curds out of the state, how enjoyable Spotted Cow is, but most importantly, I've learned about Lemons of Love, a really important charity and a really special charity to the Mazda Motorsports and the MX-5 Cup family. I'm down here on pit road right now, and I'm joined by Jill Swanson, founder of Lemons of Love. And Jill, I was reading your guys' mission statement. I learned about how when you were diagnosed with cancer back in 2014, a friend gifted you a small care package, and you were kind of overcome by gratitude and love for that package. And that's how this thing started. So I want you to kind of tell us what's going on this weekend and how can people get involved?
Sure. Thank you for having me here. I'm honored to be here. I've spent my whole life in motorsports, and in 2014 I found myself with colon cancer. I did a mental project, a health project, and I brought gifts to other people going through chemo with me. And towards the end of my chemo, my teams, my racers, my drivers, my engineers, they all got together. They helped raise some money for me. And I took that money and I paid it forward. And we've since, in 5 years, we've shipped out over 11,000 packages. Today we are honoring the memory of Alana Long, who had the forethought to do some fundraising for us. She suggested that we raffle off a Global Mx-5 Cup car a couple of years ago. We've given 3 of them away so far, and they all are they all have yellow roll cages. And every time I see that yellow roll cage roll by, I think of Alana and her memory, and this has just been such a great representative of her life.
Yeah, it absolutely has. The Alana Long 100, the name given to this pair of races in the 3rd weekend of 2019. You talked about the cars that have been raffled off thanks to the partnership with Long Road Racing. You've got Nathaniel Sparks out there. Lonnie Unser's not racing. She's a big part of helping raise money. You've got a couple drivers out there. How can people listening, watching live online, or here at the track listening over the public address system, how can they support what truly is a great cause?
So we have a website, it's lemonsoflove.org. You can go there, you can make a donation, you can send a package to somebody who's in cancer treatment. You can buy a raffle ticket for the next Mazda MX-5 Cup car. It'll be drawn in 2020, and just lemonsoflove.org.
All right, well, Jill, thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate everything you're doing with this series and for Mazda. And guys, a quick point, Danny Bender, who finished 2nd in yesterday's race, he is competing in one of those Lemons of Love cars. He got up during the luncheon today, told a really heartfelt story about how important Lemons of Love is after just recently losing his own mother to cancer. So it's something that obviously hits very close to home. And Jill Swanson and her family and her team are out here doing a lot of stuff to help people going through a very hard time. Thanks a bunch, Jill.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Tony Laporta. Thank you so much. Congratulations, Jill, on all the work that you're doing for sure. We're taking a look at an issue involving the 77 of Luke Oxner, Nick Yeoman.
That is a wild ride through Canada Corner. He takes the left side tires just a little wide. Looks like he got offline, Mark. And we got another car slow at the exit of turn number 8 as a car continues on. That's right in front of the battle for the ND1 race. We see John Dean leading that train, Hernan Palermo right behind. Didn't get a good view of who that car was that was slow.
That was Gonzalez in the 57.
Boy, and he's the one who had the accident yesterday in turn number 1, so not entirely sure what happened, but he was a front runner, was running 7th moments ago, Mark, before that incident.
Yeah, he was putting together a pretty good run and a nice rebounding yesterday after all the work that was put in to get him back in the race today. But Michael Carter continues under assault from Celine Roland, and so far he has not flinched, Nick Yeoman.
Yep, no doubt about it. And Danny Bender, who Tony just kind of profiled, has now made the move into the 2nd position to get around Celine Roland. Bender was really quick yesterday in car number 18, so he is charged into the 2nd spot. Kind of a 4-car breakaway there with Bender and Kemper joining Roland and Carter. Robert Stout's back there in the 5th position as they charge back up the front stretch.
And look who's worked his way up to 7th, yesterday's winner, Robert Nowaker, kind of using the same blueprint mode that he used to get himself to the front yesterday. And one of those guys that no matter how much success that they have and whoever goes to victory lane, they're always very appreciative of those BF Goodrich tires.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about, how long do the tires stay good through the race, and Lonnie Unser was here with us, and she said that perhaps about 3/4 of the way through the tires started to go off. We're a little more than halfway through now, and that's about the time the tires start to go away, but they don't really go off much. But boy, some of those guys had a lucky escape as Gonzalez went around. He's making his tires work hard. But one thing I wanted to mention about our friends at BF Goodrich, who do great work with the cars in this series. 35 years ago this week, last Monday in fact, 35 years ago, Mazda and BF Goodrich had their first Le Mans win together, the C2 class in 1984. So it's a big anniversary for Mazda and BF Goodrich, and we've been great friends and partners since then.
I think it's worked out well for sure. A lot of activity on pit road. Let's get a report on all of it from Tony Laporta.
Yeah, guys, originally I saw the incident with the 77 of Luke Oxner, so we started to make our way towards the white racing pit, but then I saw the Copeland Motorsports guys lay out, if you want to call it that. Tyler Gonzalez, the number 57, is here on pit lane. Engineers and mechanics swarming the car. They've got the hood up. They're checking the alignment on the car, and they're working on the steering wheel here with Tyler. I asked the guys if they know what the issue is. They said no, Tyler doesn't even know what the issue is. The wheel completely turned all the way to the right. That Max Pappas Innovation steering wheel cocked full right. The front end pointed over as far right as it'll go. They're spending a lot of time over here looking in the right front suspension. They've got a mechanic looking in the engine bay, and they've got a mechanic down in front of that right front BF Goodrich. These guys don't even know what the issue is. They're spending a lot of time. As soon as I get an answer from someone, guys, I'll report back.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. And Mo, despite the issues, obviously Mx-5 a good fit for Copeland Motorsports. A total of 5 drivers entered, and they have 4 drivers in the top 10 in points.
Yes, Dean Copeland is a former driver in the series. Dean stepped out of the driver's seat to focus on running a team, and they've become one of the powerhouse teams along with Six Sideways and McCumbee McAleer and a couple of others. But Dean Copeland's doing a great job running that team. They race in a couple of other venues also. They raced this same car. They had Pirelli tires. We were just talking about tires. They had a different manufacturer tire and a roof, a hardtop to this car, and race it in the SRO TCA series. And in fact, last weekend at Sonoma, Tyler Maxim took both wins, pole position and 2 wins in that SRO series in this exact same car. So Copeland running 5 cars here, and from a business perspective, we chatted with Dean Copeland this morning. From a business perspective, the support that Mazda brings, the support that the other partners bring to the series is what allows him to build a viable business based around this series.
About the 99 of Kemper, Nick Yeoman, he's putting together a solid run. He sat back there in 4th and was just patient and just picked his way through the other 3 cars.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Drake Kemper has a good feel for these MX-5 cars. He showed it winning the opening round race at Circuit of the Americas down in Austin, Texas. Not going to be able to breathe comfortably for very long as Celine Roland is all over the back. In fact, very nearly making contact there at the exit of turn number 5, but they'll all get single file back up the hill into 6.
Can we put a period on the issues involving Tyler Gonzalez, Tony Laporta?
Yeah, guys, Tyler Gonzalez still in the seat of that number 57. They shut the left side driver's door, and I thought he was heading back out on track, but he takes a hard right, and he's actually heading back to pit lane. The number 57 of Tyler Gonzalez's day done early. Once again here in 2019, I leaned in the window and I asked Tyler, what's it doing? And he said, it's something in the steering. I have no clue. Every time I get on the brakes or I make any kind of, his words were, hard adjustment with the steering wheel, he loses the front end completely. Felt like there was a real bad vibration by the way his hands were moving. So something in the steering rack of that car. But the young 14-year-old, who is a rookie to the series, kind of showing that he has a little bit more to learn about these cars because he didn't even know where to tell his crew to begin when it came to diagnosing that problem.
Don't adjust your set, Nick Yeoman, but it looks as though the 20 of Hernan Palermo is now leading the ND1
How about
class.
that? And he made a nice job of getting around John Dean to take over the top spot in ND1. So that's a fantastic race we're going to watch throughout the final 13 or 14 minutes. That's just a 2-car battle, Mark. Meanwhile, up front, we've got about a string of 7 or 8 cars continuing to slug it out as Drake Kemper leads them through turn 14, Mo.
So it's deja vu all over again. Remember yesterday's race, we had a train of 7 cars running nose to tail for the last 10 or so laps of the race, and here we have 7 cars aligned nose to tail as we enter the closing stages of this race once again. Let's see what they can do, and more importantly, let's see if they can behave well enough to not get called to the race director's office afterwards.
And only 184 passes to this point, Nick.
That's a little low compared to what we saw yesterday, although we did have the extended caution, which took away some opportunities for these drivers to mix it up. But certainly I think it's a testament to maybe that driver's meeting of guys taking care of each other. That may go out the window here over the next 12 minutes as they're going to get super aggressive for a race.
Well, as we've often said, you know, they have those drivers' meetings with the race director, and they all pledge and they nod approval and they nod an agreement, and then all of a sudden they walk out of there with every intentions of following the law to the letter and the advice that's given as sage advice. Then they put the helmets on.
Yep, helmet goes on, and all of a sudden you got a chance to win a race. And that's what all 7 of these guys, look at them fanning out using 3, 4 lanes down to turn 5. How about Robert Stout? He's been pretty quiet. Strong charge to the inside. Mark, it looks like he's going to grab that 2nd spot and try to run down Drake Kemper.
Yeah, normally we talk about him on a pretty regular basis throughout the course of most weekends. We haven't mentioned him yet this weekend, but but boy, we're sure talking about him now, and he's right there among the contenders. And that's a good look at 7-car breakaway.
Yep, here's your players. It's Kemper, Roland, Bender, Carter, Stout, Ortiz, and Noaker. Not in that order, as it's certainly mixed up. It's Drake Kemper who leads them underneath the Speedville Bridge, and it is still Hernan Palermo who has the lead over John Dean in ND1.
So, Mo, we were pleased and privileged to have the folks from Battery Tender in the booth with us at Barber Motorsports Park, and let's just get you to reaffirm and thank them again for their commitment as the title sponsor of the series and the support that Battery Tender gives the Global MX-5 Cup.
Well, I'm not sure there is a better sponsor. Battery Tender, they not only support the series and put their name on it and provide benefits, which I'll talk about, but they're absolutely enthusiastic. They're here this weekend, the whole family, Mike and Nancy, who founded the company and own the company, their daughter, Evan, who runs the company, and her husband, Ben, and their 2 beautiful kids, Weston and Kenna. And the whole family's here. They get involved. I've often said to Mike, hey, come in the booth and we can talk. He said, no, I'd rather be out of turn 5 watching racing. And it was the same at several races last year. He wants to be out watching the racing. He owns an MX-5 Cup car among several other race cars, and he spends a lot of time on the racetrack. What do they do for the series? Well, they put their name on it for a start, and that's a fairly significant financial contribution. But they also innovate with things like the Hard Charger Award. Remember, the car that passes the most other cars, the highest number of other cars from the start of the race to the finish, both the driver and the crew chief of that car earn a $1,000 check courtesy of Battery Tender in the Hard Charger Award. And that applies to both ND1 and ND2. So that's not insignificant, particularly for the crew chiefs. The drivers are investing money. They understand the economics of this, but the crew chiefs are the guys doing all the hard work. So when their work comes to fruition and the car can make a lot of passes, the Hard Charger Award is a benefit for them. And that's a great thing that the Prelic family and the Battery Tender folks are doing.
Well, we haven't talked much about Robert Stout, but we can talk plenty about him now, Nick Gilman. He's gone to P1.
Yep, he takes over the top spot as Hernan Palermo kicking up a lot of dirt as he races his way out of turn at number 1. There is that battle for the ND2 race win, and Robert Stout, as you mentioned, is taking over the top spot. That driver from Palm Springs, California, from McCumbee Mackley Racing, the Lucas Oil Products, Lucas Oil Racing TV, SC Fuels machine, has been so very strong in his campaigns here in the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup. Not surprised to see that red, white, and blue car charged in front.
Another update from pit road with Tony Laporta.
Yeah, guys, Ted Saley in the Atlanta Speedworks field at number 30, Choice Hotels, the sponsor on that car. He came down pit lane, parked it in the Atlanta Speedworks pit box. The engine revs shot through the roof. They shut the car off, looked at it for a few moments, fired it back up, and he made a similar trip as Tyler Gonzalez did. Ted Saley's day is done, and unfortunately, it is a transmission issue. 5th gear gone on the number 30 Atlanta Speedworks, Ted Saley.
In the quest to win that ND1 crown today, Hernan Palermo actually has some help, the 42 machine, in between he and John Dean, and that's an ND2 car.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's Austin Rachev, who is, again, can help him out and has extended. He's right now being a bit of a buffer for John Dean in that 2nd spot. So again, helping Hernan Palermo out, just trying to break this incredible streak that John Dean has been on. He's won all 5 races in ND1 this season.
8 minutes to go, and we're up to 207 total passes. We've had 4 lead changes and 3 race leaders, and the first time of the point in quite some time for Robert Stout.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Things about to get hot and heavy with 8 minutes to go, Mo, as we continue to watch the battles in ND2 and ND1.
So ND2 and ND1, let's talk about that for a second, because for viewers who are tuning in for the first time, you're being treated to this fantastic racing. We see this every time these cars are on track. But ND2 and ND1. ND2 are the latest version of the MX-5 Cup cars, the ones you see on your screen here. They're based on a 2019 model year Mazda MX-5, which has 181 horsepower and a red line of about 7,500 RPM. The ND1 that we've referred to with John Dean and Hernan Palermo battling that out, that's basically the same car, but based on a 2016, 17, or 18 MX-5, which came with 155 horsepower and about a 6,700 RPM red line. So those cars have a performance difference that is a result of Mazda upgrading the road car on which these cars are based. engines are stock in this series. Long Road Racing seals the engines, but they don't change the performance of the engines. And that's the difference between ND1 and ND2. If you're watching at home, the black background with the battery tender yellow lettering across the top of the windshield, if the background is black like these cars you see, they're ND2 cars, the faster version. The ND1 cars have a red background on that windshield banner.
Robert Stout continues P1. Nick, he just set the fastest lap of the race. A good time to be doing that late in the race, but look at the last car in that line. Yesterday's winner, Robert Nowaker again. He's following the same pattern that he followed yesterday, same approach.
He's right there, but it is probably time to start getting busy because we are under 7 minutes to go. There's that battle for ND1 as John Dean has retaken that top spot in one of those cars with, again, as Mo talked about, the red banner above it. John Dean, really strong, trying to go 6 for 6. But meanwhile, we talk about those drivers running up front. Robert Stout is your leader. Drake Bender runs in the second, and then you've got Drake Kemper in the third spot.
Tony Laporta.
Guys, a note on Danny Bender. We talked about how Jill Swanson and Lemons of Love have 2 cars actually out there competing. I had a really cool opportunity last night to get to meet, well, I've already met him, but I got to know Danny Bender and his girlfriend and his dad a lot better last night. We may or may not have visited a local watering hole. You guys probably have heard of it. It's a little place called Siebkens. And over a few beverages, we talked about what happened late in the going during yesterday's race. And Danny flat out said, being in second is where you want to be. Leading this race, coming up the hill, or leading this race really at all during that final lap is not the place you want to be. So it's Drake Kemper in one of those Lemons of Love cars running second right now as they come up the hill. I believe I last saw Danny Bender scored in the 5th position as they fly by us. He's trying to stay right up there. Bender said flat out, you do not want to be leading in this race. And it was when he took the lead over in turn 5 in that last lap, he said he knew he was in trouble. Bender knows the strategy late in the going of these MX-5 Cup races. Watch for him to employ it here in round number 6.
Leader just got freight trained by the 99 of Kemper and the 87 of Roland, and Stout goes from 1st to 3rd in a hurry.
Yep, that's the place to do it. Robert Stout in that 3rd spot going to have to try to regather the momentum to try to take a run at Celine Roland, who runs in 2nd. And then, of course, Drake Kemper in that silver car with the orange accentuations, who's been really, really strong, has taken over the race lead. Mark, just 4.5 minutes to go. Here comes Stout. He's got a nice run on the outside. Looks like he's got some help from Danny Bender as he's going to charge to the outside and even look for the lead in turn 5.
Bender gave him a shove about halfway down the hill, and that propelled him a little bit. He thinks that wide swing, the car gets into the dirt on 2 separate occasions, lost a little grip there, and that allows the 99 to keep P1. That's Kemper. So Kemper stays P1 now as they start to set up for the carousel with Celine Roland giving chase.
Yeah, a bit of a door slam there between Stout and Bender. Bender's going to be all over that rear bumper. He's going to lose a little traction. Here comes Michael Carter in that Soul Red car. He's looking for the 4th spot. Going to try to take the long way around Danny Bender. Bender doesn't give him any room to the outside as Carter gets a little off balance and jumps right back onto the racetrack.
Another driver we have not talked about this weekend, in addition to Robert Stout, is Brian Ortiz. Ortiz has been in the top, been running with that lead pack.
Whoa, and there's the Asen Rachev car. That was that ND2 outlier that we saw in the middle of that ND1 battle between John Dean and Hernan Palermo. He gets a little sideways, a little bit further back. Again, Mark, 3.5 minutes to go here at Road America. Long way to go to decide this one.
It'll be the white flag this time by, but it's good that Brian Ortiz is hanging around in that top 7 in terms of the battle for the championship, Mo.
That's right. Brian Ortiz is your points leader after yesterday, and this result will be good for his championship run. Fantastic guy, comes from Puerto Rico and flies in for every race and has huge support in Puerto Rico. In fact, they're asking me today, can they have these broadcast for the television station in Puerto Rico? So I know there's a lot of fans in Puerto Rico who watch this on live stream, and we want to say hi to all of you. You're always in our thoughts, and Brian Ortiz is absolutely a great representative for the island and the people of Puerto Rico.
Well, the white flag is in the hands of the starter, Paul Blevins. So 1 lap to go, and we'll see if it's as wild as the one that we saw yesterday away at the finish. Let's get a quick update from Tony Laporta on pit road. White flag is out, Tony.
Yeah, guys, the last lap in this one. A little bit of an update on white racing. The two Northern Colorado Comets of Luke Oxner and Brandon White. Oxner's been having trouble ever since he went off early in this race. He's been dragging something, he reports, but not severe enough to come in and pit. And then Brandon White was just on pit lane. It was purely a courtesy. He wants to get out of the way of the leaders and not become a moving roadblock.
Top four separating themselves a little bit, Nick Gilman. That's the 99 of Kemper, the 87 of Roland, the 28 of Stout, and the 08 of Michael Carter. They're trying to set sail to pull away from that 7-car breakaway and make it a 4-car breakaway.
And look at the charge into turn 1 in ND1. There's Nathaniel Sparks. All of a sudden, Sparky is in the battle. So we've got a 3-car battle for the ND1 race. But here comes Robert Stout. He's going to take a big look to the inside. Mark, they're going to be 3 wide up the hill battling in ND2.
Celine Roland has a bit of an advantage to the inside as they get to the top of the hill. It'll shake out between he and the 99 of Kemper. And Celine Roland is able to hold on to that advantage for now, that is, as the battle for second is side by side. That's Stout and Kemper through the carousel.
Look at Brian Ortiz getting off track further back in 7th, but all attention is on the front 4. And Mark, it may very well become the front 7 because those 3 are starting to charge underneath the Speedville Bridge. A really nice advantage, though. The lead for Celine Roland is about 2 or 3 car lengths. Can Robert Stout use the draft down the back straightaway headed to Canada Corner?
The 99 of Kemper off the exit of turn number 5 got wide. That cost him a position, but he climbed right back into it. He and Stout continue to go door handle to door handle. Michael Carter taking a peek at that. While all of that beating and banging is going on, door handle to door handle, look at Celine Roland in the 87 car, Nick Yeoman. He is trying to pull away, so Celine Roland may be able to hold on here and win this one as they go 4 wide now behind him.
I don't even know how that's possible. They're going to try to sort it out of Canada Corner, but all this is doing is letting Celine Roland check out just a bit. Kemper's moved into the 2nd spot. There is Robert Noaker trying to take a spot for Michael Carter as they're side by side for 5th, but here comes Celine Roland out of turn 14. Mark, he'll begin that charge up the hill. The advantage is 4 or 5 car lengths, but will it be enough? It's a long haul up this front stretch.
He was able to avoid the carnage while all of those cars slugged it out behind him. They come up the hill, and Celine Roland is going to win this race comfortably. He's going to grab the top spot. Kemper, Stout, Bender, Carter, the top 5. How about that ND1 battle?
That battle for ND1 is a good one. There is John Dean as he's got that top spot. Hernan Palermo right behind him. Nathaniel Sparks right in tow as well. Those 3 drivers, a little drag racing. They'll do some drafting up the straightaway. Can John Dean hold on to win his 6th straight race in ND1? Hernan Palermo's going to take a look to the inside. They'll drag race side by side, and I think Palermo might have just got him.
Inches. By inches.
What a tremendous finish in ND1 as Palermo timed it perfectly and takes the victory in ND1. Your winners, Celine Roland and Hernan Palermo.
Well, I think all in all, race control have to be happy. Obviously, they heeded their advice and yet still put on a very entertaining race.
But isn't that the most amazing thing? Yes, to me, and I'm certainly don't have the experience nor the talent to be a race director, but to me, it looked like there was more respect on the racetrack among the cars and the drivers. But absolutely, the racing at the end of these races is fantastic. Here we see Hernan Palermo taking the ND1 win by, well, I don't know, by the time he gets there, it's going to be about 4 or 5 inches. That's the first time anybody other than John Dean has won the ND1 class this year. And what a fantastic race. 7 cars vying for the lead in ND2 and a close finish like that in ND1. Yet all done with the level of respect I think that the race direction and the senior stewards in the stewards room can be hopefully proud of.
Boy, as we've seen, Nick Yeoman, certainly that long straightaway, even though it's uphill, certainly provides you one whale of a drafting opportunity. But the key is to get cleanly off of turn number 14.
John Dean looks like he's doing some donuts. I'm not entirely sure why, because I think he just finished 2nd. But
well, Here's why. John Dean is the car owner for Celine Roland. John Dean is the owner of Six Sideways Racing, and he knows already because of his radio that his guy, Celine Roland, has won the ND1 class. 1/100th of a second, Mark. That was the gap from Palermo to Dean, and then just 1/10 of a second back to the third place running car of Nathaniel Sparks in ND1. That was a tremendous race. And as we talked about the battle up front, I was shocked that nobody could get together and catch Celine Roland. I don't think it's that Roland was necessarily that much faster than everyone. It's just the battles got so heated from second on back to seventh that they could never gather that momentum.
Well, at the entrance to the carousel, when they came off of turn number 5, that's when they all really started beating and banging on one another, and they stayed side by side all the way through the carousel, and then it never got it sorted out. And I think by the time that Celine Roland was able to get to turn 12, they just didn't have enough time to get organized to get to that final turn to catch him.
Yeah, definitely some elbows thrown between Robert Stout and Drake Kemper. And you're right, if you're Danny Bender or Michael Carter or Ortiz or Noaker, you know you have a car good enough to get the race win. So why are you going to get in line and try to help those guys in front of you? You're going to try to pick up every spot you can in this ultra-competitive championship. So a tremendous win for Celine Roland, who was right there in the championship hunt, entered this race 12 points back in the third position in points. And as we see as it shakes out, he is right there now just 4 points back of Drake Kemper, who takes over the points lead. And Brian Ortiz is right there in the hunt as well. This championship is going to continue to be a great one, Mark, as we roll on to the doubleheaders at Mid-Ohio, Portland, and then Laguna Seca to round out the season.
Yep, that's where we wrap it up for sure. And both cars making their way into victory lane, and we'll be hearing from them momentarily. But boy, what an exciting race this was, most assuredly. And Celine Roland gave it a drive yesterday. I mean, he had P1, pole position number 3 when he rolled off yesterday, his fourth today, in fact. And, he fell back a little bit, stayed in contention all day long, but an impressive run for a couple of drivers. Let's go to victory lane and Tony Laporta.
Sounds like we're having some technical issues to hear from our race winners. Again, Celine Roland picks up the victory. It's his third race win of the season, and here's maybe the most impressive thing, Mark. He won in one of the races at Circuit of the Americas, won one of the races at Barber Motorsports Park, and then comes here to Road America. So there's no weakness for Celine Roland. He's got a good feel for all of these racetracks, and I think if he continues that trend of picking up at least one race win every weekend, he may very well end with the championship and a scholarship prize.
And, Mo, he's one of those guys that came to this series with can't miss written all over him. I mean, the expectations were very high.
Absolutely. He was, when we saw him in the shootout, he was a standout. He was head and shoulders above the other drivers we looked at and evaluated, and we put him in the car in his rookie year. Remember, his very first weekend in Battery Tender Mx-5 Cup was at COTA a year ago, the beginning of 2018.
That's right.
And he won a race that weekend. So he's had a bit of a sophomore, I don't want to call it a slump because he's got some race wins, but he's been in the wars a little bit, but he's learning his way. He's learning how to be a more mature racer, and certainly he's a talent worth watching.
Because of some technical gremlins, we're not going to be able to hear from the winners, so we'll ask you, Mo, to kind of sum up your thoughts and impressions on what's been an impressive weekend.
Well, so anytime you come to Road America, it's going to be a fun weekend because it's such a beautiful racetrack, and the weather's been fantastic this weekend. We came in expecting a little bit of inclement weather today, but it's been a fantastic weather weekend. The racing, it's unbelievable how good the racing is and how close the racing is, and that goes back to as I mentioned earlier, the quality control of long road racing and how they build all these cars to be exactly the same, and that delivers the parity. So.
It sounds like maybe we have our issues solved, and we will indeed hear from the winner. So that's good news, Tony Laporta.
Yeah, guys, thanks for putting up with me right there. Celine Roland taking a drink of water. He's got the family all around him. Art, I apologize for that. We're ready to talk to you. You had tears in your eyes when I came up here originally. So an emotional win, your third of the season. Tell me about it.
Very emotional win. It's not like you can dominate this race. It's kind of a luck thing and being in the right position. I was riding in fifth for a lot of that end of that, and I made some good moves, put myself in third. Robert and Drake went side by side in turn 5, and I just threw it in a second. I knew I had to get a good run, passed both of them, and then they kept battling, and I had the run. I was scared that they were going to draft back around me in the front straightaway, but they didn't get the run. I kept my head down, got a perfect turn 14. Once I crested the hill, I knew the win was mine.
Well, a lot of us thought the win might have been yours on the last half of the last lap when Drake and those guys behind you kept battling. Were you looking in your mirrors and realizing they were getting smaller and smaller, or was it full focus, full forward?
I was definitely looking in my mirrors, but I knew what I had to do. I knew I had to get a perfect King, perfect Canada, and perfect turn 14.
Celine Roland, you did it perfectly here on the last lap of round number 6. The Alana Long 100, race number 2 in ND2 goes to this man right here. We're going to talk to Hernan Palermo. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Celine Roland, your winner. Let's go find Hernan Palermo.
So Hernan Palermo picks up the race win in ND1 in an absolute thriller. 1/100th of a second to hold on and to break this incredible streak, Mo, that we've seen of John Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. Hernan's done a great job today. And what a fitting tribute for Alana Long.
Yeah.
Tony's got Hernan Palermo, our ND1 winner.
Hernan Palermo, brother, you waited till the absolute last second, literally, to pass John Dean. You've unseated him, and you've scored a win here in 2019. What feels better, to be the top guy on the podium or to keep John Dean off of it?
Both are about equal. He had enough wins, I think, for the whole season.
Seriously, though, tell me about that move coming up the hill. It's such a long climb. Did you know you had him covered, or were you just on the edge of your seat like the rest of us?
I had a little run going into the last corner. I was on the outside, so I knew I'd get a better run coming out, but you never know how the draft is going to work out. So I was just fortunate. I think he kind of bobbled the gear maybe. So it was just good. It worked out.
It was just good. Hernan Palermo, it was just good enough to win. He is your victor in ND1 here in round 6 in 2019. Hernan, congratulations. We'll see you on the podium.
Thank you, sir.
All right, a great job by Hernan Palermo and Celine Roland, your winners here at Road America. And a big thank you to Tony Laporta for his great hustle and hard work down there on pit lane. Also want to thank all the folks from Mazda, the folks on site that make this broadcast possible as well. Make sure you tune in to MazdaMotorsports.com on July 27th and 28th as we will come to Mid-Ohio. And then certainly you want to check out the Mazda YouTube page to watch these past races. Mo, certainly a lot of good racing coming up.
Yep, we're halfway through the season, and what a spectacular season it is. We'll see everybody at Mid-Ohio.
For Mo Murray and Mark Janes, I'm Nick Yeoman. So long from Road America, and congratulations to Celine Roland and Hernan Palermo, the winners here at Road America.